All right, how's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to Comic Book Team Up, episode 40. We're on 40 episodes already. Can you believe that, John?
Cool.
So, John and I are supposed to be talking to Henry F.O. I can't remember how exactly Henry pronounces the last part of his name. I think it's just an abbreviation. But he's having trouble with his mic right now, and he doesn't know if he can connect. So, if anyone is in the chat, we're just going to, John and I, have a little talk about comics for now and see if Henry shows up or if he can get the trouble with his mic fixed. And I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of Henry's work and show you his Subscribe Star, which he has some spectacular art on there. And he's also working with me on Fade to Blue, which is the next book that is going to be coming out from the Fourth Age. So we got a couple of people showing up in the chat. Vaz is here. George is here. Sarge. Tony is here. How's everybody doing? All right. John and I were actually just talking video games before we got on here. And yeah. I think I'll leave Henry's stuff for a few minutes and see if he shows up.
Yeah, we were talking. I'm not a video game person, but I do play Civilization 5. I know Civilization 6 is out, and I know they just announced Civilization 7, but I don't like Civilization 6. The colors, I can't differentiate. I can't tell what's going on the screen. And just something about the game bothered me, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I read someplace that Civilization 6 was a whole new team of people, and they de-emphasized combat and everything like that. It was like a progressive game. And now I know why I didn't like it. Hello, Henry.
Henry, how you doing?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to finally meet you too. Henry and I, as I said, we've been trading emails for quite some time because we're working on Fade to Blue together. But Henry, I want to talk about your other work for a few minutes. So why don't you just introduce yourself and tell the people what you have worked on before?
Well, my name is Enrique.
Right.
I use the username Henry F.O.
I didn't know if you wanted people to know your actual name or not. So
I don't know if you listen to me clearly.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. I've been working in comics for about 15 years, I think. I started drawing at a young age, but I quit drawing for several years, and I came back to drawing 15 years ago, more or less. And then I started working with a friend on a independent project that we've been working for about the same time. And I've been working on several other projects. And about, I don't know, two years ago, maybe, I started doing this. I wanted to make a story of my own, and I got the idea of doing something that I really wanted to be of my own, right?
This looks beautiful.
Thank you.
And this is gonna just stay black and white, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this should just stay black and white. This looks.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of black and white. That looks gorgeous. You wrote this and you drew this?
At the beginning, I was just drawing one page a week, and I only had the idea on my mind, the idea of the story, and I started drawing page by page. But I came to a point where I needed to write something and have something more concrete to make the story.
I see you got a black and white cat behind you. Is that the inspiration for this story?
I have several cats from my wife.
I'm a cat person too.
Yes, I like them too.
I really like this. So you drew a bunch of pages, and then what you have is somebody else put in the dialogue?
No, I'm doing it all by myself.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes, I I wanted to tell a story. It's a story that I have that, and this idea I've been with it for about, I don't know, 15, 20 years,
Oh,
that I
that's
wanted to tell this story, but I never came around to it. So I came to a point that I decided to do it, and
good for you.
try my luck on it.
I see it's fantasy. I see the word wizard and swords.
Yes, yes.
What's your inspiration for the fantasy element here?
Uh, I I have something. The idea is something like, I I like to play video games, fantasy role playing games, and it's something more like that. The uh, some medieval fantasy, something like that, like Lord of the Rings,
I was
more
gonna
or
say, are you Lord of the Rings? Are you a Dungeons and Dragons guy? I always ask that.
more or less.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. RJ wasn't allowed to play. His brothers wouldn't let him in the room.
Yeah, that was my growing up. Yeah. Uh, but I also wanted to mention in the description for anybody, I have the links for Enrique, for his Twitter, and for his Subscribe Star, and I think one other link as well.
Yes.
Where do you live, Henry? What country?
I from Mexico City.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, I'm doing a comic right now with Renzo Rodriguez. He's also, I think he's in Mexico City.
Mm.
Yeah, not everybody in Mexico knows each other, but I thought maybe comic book
Yes.
artists. I wonder if
Yes.
they all congregate in the same area.
I'm a little disconnected from from the scene here in Mexico. I don't know much about it. I knew about it like 10 years ago, but right now I don't know much about it. So I don't know many Mexican artists right
Okay,
now. Yes.
what do we? George Morales. Lord of the Rings is better than Rings of Power, yes, and Pathfinder and D&D. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is better than all that stuff.
Yes.
It's the first.
Hmm.
If you're into fantasy stuff, you got to begrudgingly give respect. If even if you don't like him, you got to give respect to Tolkien. I think he was just like if you're into superhero stuff, it's like you got to give it up to Siegel and Schulster, and
Hmm.
and this looks wonderful though. So you're drawing for RJ now.
Yes.
How,
I've
so
been drawing for about 3 months, maybe, or
yeah.
more, a bit less, a bit more, I think.
So tell us some secret stories. How bad is he really? I mean, I keep hearing from everybody else that he's a pain in the neck.
No, I'm really liking it.
Oh, good.
I'm enjoying the work. I really like what the story is. I really like it. I think it's very, very good.
I
Right.
think if I can put up in the background a couple of pieces of your art here that's from
Oh,
Fade to
cool.
Blue.
This, it's like film noir detective story or stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Uh, I honestly don't know how this entire thing works. to put it to the corner.
There
I'm
you go.
always struggling with the darn thing.
I like coming on RJ's show because he makes my mess ups look like nothing. There you
There you
go.
go.
There you go.
So this is one of the panels. So yes, the book that we're working on, it's about so it's set in the 1930s, and it's basically leading up to the Depression, and we have this fellow who's got caught up in some, well, I guess the way I always talk about it is film noir, but it's not quite as gritty as film noir. It's more like Indiana Jones meets film noir. So you have some spiritual elements to it, and it's in the world of the Fourth Age, which again back in the 1930s. So that's why we see these beautiful panels that Enrique has been working on, which drive the story along. And again, the whole thing, I think where I'm playing with it right now is black and white, but I might add a little bit of blue. That's why we call it fade to blue, because the a lot of the flames in it, when there's a big theme of flames in it, a lot of the flames are blue at times in the script. So
Cool.
see if I can.
I like and yeah. I don't know. What do you guys can you hear me since I'm not on the screen?
Yep.
Okay. I'm a big fan of black and white, and I remember very fondly the black and white explosion in the 80s. You know, we got like Love and Rockets and you know, Mr. X. I was just talking with Paul Ricochet, Revoche rather. He corrected me, and I'm a big fan. So I'm looking forward to this more black and white comics. Like, I don't know. I like superheroes to be in color because you know they're four color superhero stuff. But for detective and mystery and fantasy, I think black and white works really good. Do you think this is going to be a hindrance at all to people getting interested in your comic?
I don't think at all. I think Henry's work with light and shadow is so amazing that it's
Yeah,
going to be drawing people in. Honestly, Enrique, I'm sorry, I keep calling you Henry. Your work with shadow and light is beautiful.
Thank you. Well, I have the influence. I remember reading the Conan the Barbarian comics.
Oh, you got another cat attacking you there.
Yes, and I wanted to replicate that with the project that I'm working on.
I was just reading this today.
Yeah,
Conan number 11.
yeah, and I remember that style, like that Boris Vallejo inking, and I really like that style of inking, and 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 I wanted to replicate that, to do it in my project.
So you're doing you're doing the pencils and all the inks also.
Yes.
And you said you drew for years and then you stopped.
Yeah.
What did you do? You know.
Well, I working on some other stuff that wasn't related to drawing. I quit completely, and I felt that I needed to go back to it.
Good for you.
That's what I came back to drawing.
Yeah, I mean, I do construction during the day, you know, and then at night I'm writing scripts and doing all my stuff. But it's so much fun when you're compelled to do something. You gotta do it.
Yes.
So good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That I I really needed to do it. Right. I felt the need to go back and draw. And of course, I have to learn a lot of things, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
But I felt that, and I don't want to stop. Right. I'm I almost full time doing it.
Oh, good for you.
Thank you.
Okay,
I was going to say, I love the fact that Enrique. Well, I always go back to basically 30s and 40s actors and actresses for my characters, right? So for Renzo, he's doing a lot of female characters, like Myrna Loy and things like that. He incorporates them into the story. But you, I give Enrique the more male characters. So the inspiration for the main character for our book is Glenn Ford. He actually plays the father, Pa Kent, in Superman the movie, but he's a really beautiful actor in black and white movies. As like 310, the original 310 to Yuma, which I think is one of the best the best westerns ever. He was spectacular in that, and I think
he's got a face that you don't see anymore. I always say that some faces go in and out of style, but like he's got such like a face of that time. You don't see that. Like he reminds me of one of my father's uncles.
That's exactly why I chose him, and why Enrique captures his face when he does the pictures of our main character, which is Jonathan. Well, we call him Jonathan. But basically he's a wanderer because he gets again what access to powers that he can't understand. So he wanders to try to keep people safe. But I have to again commend you, Enrique, on bringing that sense of the pictures that I gave you, the black and white pictures to originally work from, to the page, because you do a spectacular job on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, this looks like a man's man kind of comic. Is that fair to say?
Well, it's set in the Depression, so things are down and dirty, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Harry, you look like a big guy. It's so it looks like you have no problems drawing this type of hard boiled characters. I'm a construction worker. You look like you'd be fine hanging out with me at work.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, except when you break your neck and then you're sitting home getting bored out of your mind. So, how long before this is going to be ready, and you're going to have it on your own site?
I'm not entirely sure where we're going to publish it right at the moment, because I do have a couple of, well, the first idea I had was we can publish it on the YouTube channel, which could be through the posts, but I'm not entirely sure. The other thing is that Archaven has asked me a while ago if I wanted to publish anything on their site. So Chuck Dixon also does stuff on Archaven, and I know that I think they're in South America is where
Really?
they're originally based out of. I'm not entirely sure on that. So there's a couple of options that I have open, but we already have these stories are 22 pages long, I think. What are they? They're eight page chapters. So and we got 3 chapters. Every chapter is 8 pages. But anyways, we have the first issue done already, and we're working on issue 2 right now. So the only thing, I'm trying to clean up the Valiant Heroes, because I still have some outstanding orders, because somehow Indiegogo has captured people's orders without taking their addresses, and I have to track down these people in order to try to get their books out to them. So I want to get that done and out of the way completely before we launch this book. And I also want to get a good trailer going for it, because I have some I always love having a good trailer for my book. So, and Enrique has given me some spectacular material to work with. I'm trying to find one right now, but your technical detail, Enrique, is spectacular as well, because there's one panel, it's the first page of one of the chapters, where our main character is going into a church, and it's just a beautiful technical piece. I'll see if I can find that.
Yeah, that'd be cool to look at. Cool. I'm a big fan of RJ's. I got all his comics. I can't wait. This will be. Is Fade to Blue part of the for lack of a better term, the Valiant universe? Are these all?
Oh yeah, it definitely is. It's just, again, set in the 1930s, so we're removed from Thomas Valiant. Yep.
Do you find that to be like I'm working on a side project with Oscar Carano and Tonic Ball, and it's about a guy who collects comic books, and then his father wants to retire, so he has to move out of his dad's house, and how his life is now over, and I had to set it in my regular universe, even though it has nothing to do with it, but I just that kind of anal retentive. So if you get both my comics, you'll see that there's little homage to each other. I don't know, has nothing to do with Fade to Blue, but I just made me feel good to know that this is set in your same universe, but this is the 30s. The Valiant universe is the present day, and then Crom Destroyer is prehistory. Is that correct?
Yep, that's exactly what we're going with.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And how does Archaven work? I'm kind of curious.
They only publish digitally, so that's why I originally thought that they might publish other than digital, but no, they just publish digitally, and I think it's a subscription in order to get into Archaven, and then
I think that they got a lot of views, and I know Chuck Dixon, when he gets enough material, he publishes. I just bought his why can't I think of the name of it? My Sister Suprema. It's about a boy who wants to be a superhero, and he finds on the internet this formula for making superpowers. And then his sister bursts in while he's in the bathroom. She's like, "What are you doing in the bathroom? What are you?" And she bursts in the door, and she gets the superpowers. It's kind of a funny superhero story. It's good for all ages. Oh, we got a question here from Vaz. Enrique, do you draw oversized to draw all the details? Do you make it big and shrink it down?
I work on digital, and the resolution of the page is, I think, is 400p. I think so. I can zoom in very, very, very high and
Okay.
do details.
Did you start out on paper?
Yeah, I started on paper, but uh, I find it very. I'm not very clean doing
Oh,
drawing on paper, really. So
yeah.
I feel more comfortable doing on digital.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was just telling this story just before my other channel. Uh, One of the first pages Renzo sent me, and there was just a billboard behind the hero's head.
Mhm.
I just felt it was distracting, and I was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But then I kept thinking about it. And then I'm like, if I ask Renzo to redraw this, like, what do I have to ask him? Do I have to repay him? Like, is this another page? How long is this going to take? This poor guy, this is his job. So I tried not to let it bother, but eventually I was like, all right, Renzo, could you any way you could redo this without that? He's like, yeah, sure. And like 5 minutes later, it's gone because I forgot he does it all digital, and
Yes.
it's so easy to fix the mistake. So I guess that's. Oh wow, look at that! Look at that! I hear you, cats. The cats like it too.
Yeah, it's a female cat. She's hungry.
Uh,
She's asking for food.
oh wow, I really like that. I like the insert. That is cool. Oh wow, and all the way to the right, I like the trees.
Is it recognizable to you though, John?
I was gonna say this looks familiar. Where have I seen it?
You've seen it in New York because that's what is this is a cathedral in New York
St. Patrick's?
because yeah, St. Patrick's
Yeah.
because it's set. He's in New York at this point. So
Okay. Yeah, that's St. Patrick's Cathedral. I was just there 6 years ago for a construction worker died. They had a mass for him there. That was the last time I was there. So where I am looking at is I'm standing amidst the statue of Atlas, right?
this is the front
Right.
doors. So
No, I'm saying if you go to the St. Patrick's Cathedral,
right.
and then turn around 180 degrees, there's that statue of Atlas right in front. By rock. So that's where we are looking, like pretty much in the street, right in front of that statue of Atlas, looking at St. Patrick's Cathedral.
But again, spectacular.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Enrique.
This is really good. How long does that take you?
Well, yeah, I think that it took me several days to do it. I just moved out from my older house, and I've been doing other stuff, and I don't have all the time that I wanted to have to do it. So I think it took me almost a week to do only that panel.
Wow.
And divided in between several hours a day.
Wow.
And he gave me 3 different positions for my main character as well in order to choose from for this page, this panel of this page.
Oh, because it's digital. You could move that guy around.
Yeah, that's much easier.
Oh, that is pretty cool. Oh, and he has, I guess, what is it, like a burn or a birthmark on his arm?
Yeah, that's part of the story where the powers come into the entire thing.
That is great. That is awesome. I want to have you on just to watch cats jump around for an hour. my wife and I had cat adventures all weekend. We just captured some ferals that had kittens and got them all fixed and neutered and whatever. So that's the cat adventures at my house. Everybody's fine. All the cats are good. Oh, they're gonna get adopted.
They go anywhere they like.
Yeah. But we heard little kitten mews in our backyard underneath our deck.
Mhm.
Little little blue-eyed little kittens. We're like, oh man. And my wife turns right to me and goes, John, we're not taking them. So we put cans of food in little traps, and then I just sat there in a chair and I took YouTube cat noises and I just played mother cat noises, and they ran right into the traps. I felt bad. I felt bad for these poor kittens. But they're going to be living in someone's house. But anyway, that has nothing to do with Fade to Blue. Yeah. I see. Is this your brother? FOROM? Is this your brother in the chat?
I think it is.
Yeah, I'm so proud of my brother making his dreams come true.
Yes, my older brother.
Does he draw also?
Yeah, he used to draw. I don't know if he has the time to do it right now, but he also can do it.
So you and your little brother were both artists. So I imagine there must have been comic books all over your house growing up.
I used to read comics when I was younger.
What was your favorite?
I used to read Spider-Man. My father used to buy a copy every 15 days. It was published here in Mexico every 15 days. So he came home with a copy every 15 days. And one of my brothers and I used to read them in turns.
Oh, see, my dad never bought the comics for us. That's cool. So
Yeah.
your dad bought it for himself?
Yeah, he was fan of Spider-Man.
Okay.
Yeah, so he brought the comics. He also used when the Savage Sword Conan published here in Mexico, he also bought it from us for us.
And he let you kids read that? Because that was pretty gory.
I don't have kids. But when I have, I will show them those comics.
So yeah. Vezves says you learned to draw by did you ever take classes, or was this just
no, I was self-taught. I copying the Spider-Man comics. I used to copy the poses and all of that.
Do you have any artists that you particularly?
John Romita Sr. and John Romita Jr. That's what I like.
Yeah, those
Spider-Man.
Those are some good stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have? I heard the stories that in Mexico they didn't like that Gwen Stacy died, and they made comics with Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, that's what I know. That they keep publishing it. They made them here with Gwen Stacy alive. Yeah.
Right. I just found out about that like a year ago. I think that's so funny that Mexico's like, not in Mexico. She's not dying over here. We like her.
It was very popular.
Yeah, that's funny. So, I mean, at what point did Marvel? Was this like a Marvel okay with this, or was this just
I really don't know. Maybe they were. I don't know really.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marvel Mexico. Vazvez says the first Elseworld comic, the first What If, right?
Yes.
That's funny. I wonder, like how. I wonder if they licensed out Spider-Man and they just did whatever they wanted. Marvel's like, we don't care, it sells. Or like, what would Marvel do? Like, no, she has to be dead.
Yeah, I really don't know. Maybe they allow them to do it. I don't know. And I also didn't know about it until a few years ago.
Oh, really? So like you found out that she died in America, and you're like, no, that never happened.
Yeah.
So did they ever have that issue with the Green Goblin throwing her off the bridge? Like, did they change it?
I don't think so. Maybe she survived that. Maybe I really don't know very well the story, but
she's okay. I just got to get her to the hospital quick.
Yeah, and I think they married also.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That is great. Mexican Spider-Man has Gwen Stacy still alive.
Yeah.
That changes so I think I like that so much better than what they did with Spider-Man in America. I think Mexico's got it right.
Yes.
Because in America had Mephisto come and change it so that he was never married to Mary Jane, and now Gwen Stacy's back and she had an affair with Harry Osborn, and now there's 9 million. I hate it all. I hate it all. I'm gonna go to Mexico where Spider-Man just had a good, clean life, married Gwen Stacy. You know.
Yeah.
I like that bet. They had different covers. So what do they have local? Because I know in England, when you got Spider-Man and Marvel Comics, they had local English comic artists draw the covers. Did they do that? Do they have different covers?
I think they did. Maybe.
People in the chat are liking this too. They're saying base. Yeah, there's a YouTube video. I got George Morales. If you would look me up on Twitter or John's Longbox on YouTube, send me links to this. I would love to see these videos. This is fascinating to me. There's a whole aspect of comics I only learned about a year ago. So RJ, if you're gonna change things about comics, what would you change? Like, let's just. Oh wow.
He's gonna throw up a couple more pictures from Fate to Blue that.
You took me by surprise. I'm talking something silly, and then you throw me this scary guy on fire.
What would I change in comics? Well, if not the last 15 years or 20 years, John, I'm not entirely sure. What would I change in comics? I have no idea what single event I would change in comics.
I would make it so that Jean Grey, there's no Phoenix Force. She just comes back because her name is the Phoenix. If your name is the Phoenix, you get to come back. Why'd they make it so complicated? And then she's just a ticking time bomb. She comes back all innocent. She gets more and more powerful. She's going to explode again, turn evil again. And then there's nothing they can do about it unless they get some sort of Galactus level being to take care of her. I think Vaz says he would erase the Krakoa era. I think Vaz, you win. You win. I would never hire Bendis for Superman. I would never hire Bendis for comics. He's ground zero of the end of comics for me. Look at this. I like this guy's face. Not the monkey guy. Well, the monkey guy's cool too. This guy, his name is John. You said Jonathan.
Yeah, it's Jonathan. This guy. Yeah, he's the main character who's based on Glenn Ford.
So he's like a superpowered detective.
He's a guy who stumbles into superpowered or mystical things and does his best to scramble through.
Okay. Well, isn't that the difference between a noir and hard boiled? Noir is supposed to. Chuck Dixon gave definitions, and I'll trust him. I'll trust Chuck Dixon about anything. He says noir is normal people getting into like extraordinary situations, and hard boiled is like exaggerated situations or something like that. Now I'm confusing myself. But he says that like hard boiled is just regular people. I forget which one it is, but noir is exceptional circumstances and hard boiled is exceptional people. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, the reason why I usually say it's film noir mixed with Indiana Jones is because, as far as I know, the one of the earmarks of film noir is the fact that there's not supposed to be anything supernatural in it. So that's why, for me, really? Yeah, it's all basically, everything's just straight up. I don't know what you call it, modernism.
Yeah, so that's what Chuck Dixon was saying, that film noir is regular people but caught in circumstances, and then hard boiled is everything's dialed up to 11. Like he says, Sin City is not film noir. Sin City is hard boiled.
Yeah.
All right, I'll believe Chuck Dixon. He wrote a few comics. I'll take his word. Enrique, do you have any? We talked about your artists. Do you have any comic book writers that you really particularly enjoy?
I don't really know much. I stopped reading comics like several years ago, and I don't know very much.
Yeah.
About those.
We all should have stopped reading comics in 2015.
I have to say though, even though you say that, Enrique, your panel layout again, sometimes I give panel layout information in my script, sometimes I don't. But your panel layout is exceptionally good. I mean, especially we had there's one scene he had to draw for me where the fellow was coming down into the hull of a ship on a rope, and he put it on an angle, and it's like that works spectacularly well. I didn't even think of that when you did that. That was great.
Thank
So
you.
what inspired you as far as page, because drawing a comic book, people just think it's drawing. Like if I have friends that could draw a guy flying through the sky and stuff like that, but they can't draw perspective, and then much less like storytelling was as far as the art going from panel to panel. And then there's such thing as panel layout. Like when I send a script to Renzo, I'm a writer guy, you know what I mean? So I'm not thinking in terms. Well, I take that back. I am thinking in pictures and stuff. So I'm like, okay, this panel is going to look like this. This panel is going to look like that, and I'll have 5 panels on a page, and then I send it to Renzo. But with 5 panels, there's so many different layouts that you could do. Well, how do you come up with it? Because some of those things were really, really creative. You know,
Sometimes it's difficult when sometimes it's really hard to think how to make the layouts, but sometimes it comes really fast and easy. For example, the pages that I've been doing this week, that I've been sending RJ the layouts. The I've been reading the script, and the layouts come very quickly. I it's been it's been easier to do it.
Okay.
Sometimes it comes very easy because you you read the description, and you have the image of that description really fast, and then you can put it on the page.
So you read like page 7 of RJ's script. Do you read the whole page, and then do you have a layout for the entire page, or do you think one panel at a time?
Sometimes I go panel for panel, yes, one at a time. Sometimes I go that, and when I have the panel, sometimes I rearrange the panels one, just when I have the idea for the panel, then I can rearrange how are they going to be, no, the size
Okay.
and the shape.
I guess that's one of the things that'll help you with digital, is then you could.
Yes,
Yeah. I
yeah,
guess.
that helps a lot.
Yeah, I imagine if the old way of doing it, you would have to maybe plan your whole page at once. Yeah, I
Yeah,
never thought of that before. I never thought of that until RJ brought that up. Pretty
yeah.
cool. Yeah. RJ, you don't draw at all, do you?
Like I said, I used to a long time ago. I used to draw, when I was a teenager, and I've been trying to do what, um, what is it? Oh, good heavens! Why do names always elude me when I need them the
I
most?
know.
What's his name? The fellow writes Nexus, um, Mike
Mike,
Barron. Mike Barron, basically, when I was interviewing him, he said, "You got to learn how to draw basic shapes, and so you can lay out a panel in your own handwriting in case it needs to be forwarded to the artist." And I took that advice to heart. And so, I'm trying to do little bits and things here and there, but they're nothing compared to. It's just bare panel layout and stick figures, all that kind of stuff.
so when you give Enrique your script, would you tell him, okay, I'm just making stuff up because obviously I didn't read your script. Be like, okay, he's throwing the grappling hook, and then the grappling hook is going to go across the panel, sticking to the wall, and then in the middle panel he'll be climbing like. Do you ever lay out the whole panel like that, or is just this, Enrique, do whatever you want?
It depends, really. Sometimes I have like Enrique just said, sometimes I have very strict idea of where the panels are going to go. And I even include a panel layout. Like Renzo likes having panel layouts done already. It's probably half of the pages have panel layouts, half of them don't. And I'd say the ones that don't, go to town. You go ahead and do whatever you want with this page with the panel layout. but that being said, I think Enrique and I work at a much looser level than Renzo and and I give him a lot more free reign when I do the scripts. And what I usually concentrate on when I write the scripts is whether or not it's going to be a tight shot and the exact visuals that need to be included in the panel, and then the panel layout actually flows from that, which again I can see where Enrique's talking about seeing it in your head, because when you picture exactly how much of this needs to go down on the page and where it's going to be in the sequence of panels, then it kind of gives you an idea of layout just automatically when you're thinking about the art.
So, RJ, when you're writing your script, do you think of it as a movie going by in your head, or do you picture it as a comic?
Everything to me is visual. Like everything to me is visual. I've said that for a long time. I think my first language is visual, is comics, right? Is visual art. Even before I knew how to read, I had comics in front of me. But yeah, I think of it in panel wise. To me, it's funny thing is because when I read a novel, it's a movie in my head. Like the whole thing is a movie in my head. But
Right.
when I'm writing a script for my comics, it's all panels. Everything's panel, panel, panel. There's no movement whatsoever. And that is the best thing ever for a writer, if you ask me, because it gives you the limitations of, okay, I need to capture the most important moment of the next couple of moments within the story in this panel. And to me, that makes me a better writer, if you ask me. Top of the
Now,
line.
I'm asking this because this is something I'm struggling with. Like when it comes to like writing, I don't want to jam a whole bunch of exposition into each panel. I'm trying to keep like I think each panel is like a quick moment. It's almost like a snapshot in time. Would you say that's, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
With the very few exceptions, is a panel supposed to be lingering or whatever. I almost think like the bigger the panel, the more time is and time is this weird essence that we jam into a panel. So like a larger panel kind of captures more of that ineffable time essence. So like I kind of struggle, like, okay, RJ's talking to Enrique. RJ says this, Enrique responds, and then maybe RJ will give maybe a short response, but never anything like that. So sometimes I'm thinking, if there's a lot of dialogue, this is a roundabout way to ask this question, but if there's a lot of dialogue, do you think there should be a lot of panels? And if there's less dialogue, is less panels fine? And does my question make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah, it makes sense. But I always go back to the writer rule and think show rather than tell. I'm actually doing part of the script, redoing part of the script for Crom the Destroyer right now for Nick, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can. Oh, actually, no, it's the wrong script. I'm working on 4 scripts at once here. It's the Artemis story that I'm doing with Jank. He's in Japan, and basically, I'm going with show don't tell because it's a origin story part of the script. But yeah, I always write a lot of dialogue, and I apologize for that, Enrique. If you think where's all the dialogue going to go? But the thing is that I write the dialogue in order to make the panels make sense, and then when I get the art back, I always rewrite the entire thing so that it fits into fits into the art and doesn't, crowd out anything that I'm gonna have. And the thing is with Enrique, when we're doing this book, again, this is much more loose panel layout than I use with Renzo. We usually go around 5-6 panels for this. And it's a very silent book as well. Not that there's not a whole lot of talking, because I want to give it again that feel of everybody's depressed. It's in the depression, right? Everybody's just slumping along because that's the way the world is right at the moment. So it all depends. But again, I always rewrite the entire script in order to make sure my dialogue doesn't mess up the art.
So Enrique, when you're drawing, when you're drawing RJ, you're like, oh, there's a lot of dialogue in this panel. Like, I guess you have to plan for that, right? You got to, because you know there's going to be a gigantic word balloon, and you can't have your guy peeking over a word balloon.
Well, there's not a lot of dialogue.
Well,
I
RJ doesn't
think.
know a lot of words,
Yeah, yeah. In fact, the dialogue helps a lot because it gives me an idea of expressions and all of that. And sometimes he asks me to have a character in some position, but the dialogue helps me to to imagine that, right when in the panels where there's no descriptions of that kind, the dialogue helps me to give an expression to the characters or some position, right? But I don't think there's no much dialogue. I think
Right.
it's been fine to me.
The question here for you, Enrique. Someone says, do you draw the background forward or do you start in the foreground and add the background later?
uh, I have when I make the layouts, most of the layouts only have the figures of the characters, but when I start the pages, I start with the background, and then and then at the end I make the characters.
Yeah, I remember I took two art classes as a kid, like not full courses, but I went to two art, and I remember they said that start with the background, and I'd always, and of course that I resented that because I wanted to draw Spider-Man, and then I would fill in buildings, and like, no, draw the buildings first, and that's
Yeah,
why
sometimes it feels a little disconnected when you do that, when you do the character first and then the background, because sometimes the perspective doesn't match. But you can do it also. I don't think there's no much problem with that.
That was one of the rules that I was just going over last weekend or last Friday or Wednesday on my Make Comics Great Again. We were going over a very old Walt Disney How to Draw Comics manual, and that was one of the things they said: draw your background first, or else your character is going to look like it's floating in something that shouldn't actually be around him, or your perspective is going to be off. So yeah, it's one of those very old tricks that they always say that makes sequential art better.
The thing that I do sometimes is that I make very clear in my panels where the line of the horizon is and the points from the perspective that I'm going to use. So I can have an idea where the figures are going to match with the background.
And since we are actually concentrating a lot on shadow and light within the comic that's mostly black and white, the fact that you put the horizon in the background, it helps immensely with where source of light's coming from.
I can't help but think of you mentioned Mike Barron, and he says no, because when you watch a real fight, there's no soliloquies in a fight. There's no big lines of dialogue in a fight. It's like, if anything, it's like, I'm gonna get you, and in real life. But there's also not laser beams in real life. The only dialogue in action scene should be sound effects. Bam, pow, zap. Are you going to be using sound effects in this, or is this going to be left up to your?
That's a funny thing, quite honestly, because I don't remember putting any sound effects in yet, and because we have the major fourth age stuff, which Renzo works mostly on, which is the Valiant Heroes and Thomas Valiant, and we have sound effects there. But then I have Crom the Destroyer, which is patterned after the Conan the Barbarian and the Savage Sword of Conan stuff, which was written specifically not to have any sound effects at all. Right? That's the way Roy Thomas said that he wrote the comics and made sure that it had a more grounded feel, that no sound effects. And Fade to Blue is kind of in between. I haven't used any sound effects that I can remember in any of the panels yet, but I think if I ever do use them, they would be very sparingly. The only time I usually use sound effects is when I need to explain something, and I'd rather do it in sound than in word balloon.
What about thought balloons?
Oh yeah, stop balloons.
There is, yeah. I'm, you know, because my comic is supposed to be an '80s comic, so they had thought balloons back in the '80s. I'm using thought balloons. I like what Vaz says. Modern comics. First scene, a fight is about to happen. Second scene, in a food joint, eating a hamburger. The main character thinks that was a good fight. I read that comic. I read that. Yeah. It drives me so nuts. And I'm not mentioning any names, but somebody asked me to critique their comic, and I didn't want to make a video about it because that was just one of the critique. And again, you're going to read my comic and be like, this guy's a hypocrite. He's doing the same thing. But it's hard to critique your own stuff. But they had two people meeting up who hated each other. And then the next scene, they were literally having a hamburger talking about why they hated each other. I'm like, dude, you had the fight set up. You know, you had the fight. And it's hard to tell everything without spoiling the comic. And I don't want to out the guy. He's a good guy. But I'm like, you could have this conversation, but you do it exactly what Modern Marvel is doing. They went right to a Starbucks. They're eating a sandwich, having a coffee. You know, this is what we're making fun of. You couldn't have had any other way for them to convey this information, to show the emotions, to say that they could have had like a minor fight and then it gets broken up or they realize it or whatever. But anyway,
one of the scene that Enrique is working on right now for Fade to Blue. So we have this scene here. This is from the first issue. So it's a more of a physical threat in the first issue, but in the second issue, it's more cerebral. The threat is a much more menacing, thinking character, and the fact that, as I said, Enrique is working on these panels right now. The fact that he is nailing the menacing quality of the villain with very little movement and his ability to basically sidestep confrontation. Again, it gives a different feel to the issue 2, and again, got to say, you're doing it spectacularly, Enrique.
Thank you.
Vaz says a lot of modern comics forgot the show part. Yes, you know, and I keep telling the story. My first script was just showing everybody, was just telling everybody everything. You know, I got so excited. I wrote a script. I'm like, John Byrne's gonna come out of retirement and draw my comic book because it's so good. You know, and then everybody was like, dude, this is just telling the comic. This is, you know, world building the comic. So yeah.
And now you got Renzo, who he's better than John Byrne anyways, because he's still on the rise. John Byrne's you know,
Yeah,
he's found his corner to slink into. So you got Renzo.
And Renzo's pleasant. he's the nicest guy in the world. Yeah. Now you can hear my cat. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He became vocal all of a sudden. Yeah, my wife is sitting over here not talking, so the cat's like putting on a show for attention. So how did RJ? How did you find Enrique?
Honestly, I saw. Well, let me put this stuff back up again. But I saw his work on his book, and I thought to myself, this is the guy I want to work with for black and white, because I had the idea for a black and white. I'm not sure if I contacted you first, Enrique, or you contacted me, but it didn't matter because because I looked at this and I went, yeah, I need to do something black and white, and he was the first person I thought of, because these amazing pages that he was working on and putting up in his Subscribestar. So, and one of the things that I love about the way that you work, Enrique, you also the fact that, again, you're talking about do the background first and then put the character in, but your backgrounds, I mean, they're one of the ways I actually ask in the script is sometimes don't put in a background, sometimes put in a background, but your backgrounds for your book and that you're doing for mine are detailed, and just enough detail to make it interesting and drive the story along. So again, you're a master. Again, looking at let's pull this one back up again. The master at again, technical detail in what you can do for backgrounds. So I got to pull up that church shot again.
Yeah, I love that. When you were just showing Rika's book, the stairs, I was just enjoying just the stairs. They look like regular stairs, but they're drawn. They're cool looking stairs. Yeah, on that page, it's that. I'm looking at like, Gerhard, who did all the backgrounds for Cerebus, for Dave Sim. This is great. There's something about black and white though. It just makes everything look like it has more prestige. It's much colored comics, black and white. I'm a big fan.
I guess I should. What I've been trying to say is that everything has a purpose. Your backgrounds, everything has a purpose,
Right?
and
That's a real place.
exactly. So, yeah, the ability to make sure that purposeful things are in the panel and are focused on by the reader, even if they don't know that they're looking at it for the background. That's one of the beauties of sequential art when you get a good artist and someone who knows what they're doing.
So your day job has nothing to do with comics, or your last, you weren't a storyboard artist or anything like that?
No, I do this only. To be honest, I do house related things during the day, and then in the afternoon and at night I work on this.
Oh, yeah. I do construction during the day. Yeah, so yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Physical work, as I say, because you look like a big guy.
I just have the luck to be tall.
Well, not me. I mean, I met a bunch of people at a party a couple months ago, and one of the guys goes, "I didn't recognize you. I thought you were like 6'5". I was like, nope.
So you're a dwarf in material, especially with the beard, are you, John?
Yeah. Whenever we take those tests, like which Tolkien race would you want to be? I'm always like elf, and then I hit submit, it spins, and it always comes up dwarf.
Dwarfs are cool. Dwarfs are cool.
Yeah, dwarves are cool. Yeah. But my wife's mad. She wants us to be hobbits together.
I'm a hobbit.
Well, yeah, hobbits. You sitting around eating sausages, cooking potatoes, sitting on a porch smoking a pipe. You know what? I think I want to be a hobbit too. Dwarfs are always working. Sitting there smoking with your big feet. Well, that sounds awesome. Elves have too much angst and responsibility.
Yeah, that would be cool to do that.
Comics and cartoon studio. I have a comic. I put out a call for before Renzo for artists on Twitter, and I got like 900 bots, and everybody seemed to be drawing a really bad manga. It just like I like RJ. I know you put out calls every once in a while, like, and you find guys like Enrique and Renzo and everything, but do you get like a million submissions of just like, oh God, like a lot of no thank yous?
I always think to myself, these people will get better, so I'm keeping their names. Is that if they're really into art and there's someone who wants to do this, even if I don't like their art right at the moment, I'm thinking they're going to get better someday, so I'll just keep track of them, right?
Because I'm talking about the guys that obviously just watched Dragon Ball Z and copied Dragon Ball Z, but that's what I'm talking about. I got like for every guy who's like, oh, this is interesting, oh, maybe a couple of, it's just like, I draw Dragon Ball Z and that's it. Do you want? I don't want Dragon Ball Z the comic.
Yeah, I did. There was one guy who I'm pretty sure was a scam, and he was. Yeah. I don't know. He kept on saying he was in India, and he would only give me a couple of panels from like one of the pages, but I think he was using AI generators to do that, and trying to get me to pay him in advance for all the pages. Like, no, sorry.
And I didn't fall for him, but I was looking at his stuff with interest too. I'm glad you got scammed and not me.
Well, I always, again, I like to go slow until I get to know my artists, and then when I know the artist, then we trust each other. So that's Enrique is in that short list right now with Renzo and Nick.
Good. Um, cartoon. Why should heroes be? Yeah, Ryan Banks says, why should heroes be silent and fight? Muhammad Ali talked and taunted his opponents. Yeah, and Spider-Man. That's like Spider-Man's thing, is like, taunt them until they lose. Yeah, but that's what Muhammad Ali tried to psych him out. I agree with that. Plus, it's just a comic book tradition. When I see Ben Grimm throwing a punch at Dr. Doom, I don't want to just see silent fight. I want to hear it's clobbering time, and what a revolting development. It's fun. It's just a comic book trope. I like your cat. Looks like it's just there guarding you now.
Yeah, she's the one that is asking for food.
Oh, yeah. I think the orange ones always seem to be a little bit more vocal than black or white ones.
She's hungry right now.
Ah, poor cat.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I named the stream Black and White is because, well, first of all, Enrique works in black and white for his book, and he's working in black and white for my book. But honestly, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think we're talking about manga in the chat here. I think that a lot of North Americans have lost the I don't know what you call it, the ability to read comics correctly anymore. They just don't understand, and go back to manga and the simplicity of black and white, because a lot of us, I hate to say this, but I mean, a lot of us, because I hate to say it, because you get these weird Marvel people always saying idiotic things about, reading Calvin and Hobbes in the newspaper, but the newspaper was black and white. And I think we probably learned how to read comics by going through the newspaper and looking at I don't know, Family Circus or Tarzan or anything like that, and reading things in black and white, and having our literacy for sequential art actually begin there. And it was all black and white. So I think we need to get back to, and that's why I wanted to do this book in part, to get back to the simplicity of black and white, for the people who just don't quite have the literacy to read, let's say, a Marvel's 80s comic anymore.
And Enrique, have you ever tried to color your work, or had anybody color it, just out of curiosity?
I work with a friend. He's also a writer, and he colors. We're working in a project together since 2010, I think.
Okay.
He makes all the colors. I think I'm really, really bad at coloring.
Oh,
That's why I want to do this in black and white.
like, would you be opposed to having the work that you're working on right now, your fantasy book? Like, if you met a good colorist, would you like, nice, I like it black and white, or would you put it black and white?
Yeah, it would be nice to have it colored. Yes.
Yeah, because I know I grew up reading The Spirit in black and white. I didn't know that The Spirit was in color. I got the kitchen sink reprints, and they just put them in black and white to save money. They didn't want to recolor them. And then when I saw them in color in another reprint, I was like, oh man, I kind of like the black and white. Like, you could see all the details, and you could, I don't, like this cathedral. If that was in color, I wonder if I would miss a lot of your fine lines, and especially on the buildings on the side. I think a lot of that would be lost.
Yeah, I think also that. Yeah, sometimes I think that a work in black and white doesn't need the color.
Yeah. George says you can have dialogues and fights. I just don't like 50 paragraphs of yeah. RJ, you read Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics? Have you?
I don't think I've actually read that one, John. No.
Yeah, that, to me, that's up there with the Eisner as two of the textbooks for comics. And one of the things that he says, he has like this a sequence of storytelling, and he's talking about time in comics is weird, time on a page is weird, and time in a panel is weird, because not only do you read American comics from left to right, but time also travels from left to right within a panel. He goes, it's something we instinctively understand but don't really think about. And he was saying that's why a guy could be taking out a knife and stabbing somebody and saying words, because within a panel itself, it's not like, because I was saying earlier that it's each panel is just a snapshot in time, but it's not really true. Each it's almost like a little time bubble. I know I'm murdering it. I'm not explaining it the way Scott McClay. So I could see why the Thing could yell, "It's clobbering time," because in a comic book panel, not only did he's throwing the punch, but you also understood he said it's clobbering time right before he threw the punch, because there's a little bit of playfulness in the way we perceive time in comics.
It's funny you should mention that. I think because again, working with another artist, we just starting the script in the next couple of days. Again, he's from Japan, or living in Japan. I think he's originally from Colombia, but he has a manga style, and we're doing that in black and white as well. But he asked me, if we're doing this in a style that's gonna resemble manga, do we go from right to left or left to right? And I said, I wanna do this in a way where we can actually flip it. So that, because that's what Marvel did. I mean, not Marvel, Innovation did when they took the manga and they republished it as floppies back in the 80s, right? They just flipped the panels, and they did have to insert a couple here and there, but they flipped it over.
Pure images. So like, if somebody's face left, they'll. Oh, okay.
So
we don't have anybody doing the Pledge of Allegiance, or it won't make sense.
Well, they're all in Japan, so but yeah, again, those kind of ideas, you always got to keep them in the back of your mind. And again, I think working in the black and white, which is 2 of the books of the 4 that I'm working on right now, does help the fact that to draw out the energy of what's going on in a panel. And that's something Will Eisner does talk about a lot in his books as well, with the snapshot of time. He talks about it as if we're like a single frame of a movie, but you only get one frame every 40, like one out of every 40, if not one out of every 100 frames.
And that's why it's okay to have dialogue, because that my wife is smiling because she can hear you, Kat. That's why it's okay to have dialogue, because we know that this is one snapshot, and the dialogue is happening in between panels and after this panel. You know what I mean? That's why time is a little wonky in each panel. Vaz says, in those flip mangas, everyone was suddenly driving on the wrong side of the street and died. That's funny. They don't say the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag in Japan?
No. Well, Enrique, we usually stop at an hour. We've already gone over our hour. So I want to give the last word to you. If you want to tell our audience again about yourself and any of the other books that you're working on besides Fade to Blue, or your own links, if you want to put them out there for people to follow you.
Well, yes, just to say thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure, and I think that you share the link with the Knockdown, the project that I'm doing.
Right.
That's
in the description.
Yeah. And thank you very much. That's I would say. You can find me on Twitter, I think, but I don't remember what it is.
It's Henry FO. It's at Henry FO.
Henry FO on Twitter. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody in the chat for showing up tonight. And again, links are in the description for Enrique, for his Twitter, and for Subscribestar, and one other link I can't think of right at the top of my head. But again, also, if you want to see work from him, you'll be seeing it coming out from the Fourth Age within the next couple of months with Fade to Blue, which is these beautiful panels here that we have in the background. Again, film noir meets Indiana Jones, set in the 1930s, and Enrique is knocking it out of the park. We're working on issue 2 right now of of our floppies, which is basically going to be digital only for now. And I wanted to do that so that I could give a lot of the people who kept on saying, I can't buy your books because I just don't have the money for the shipping and all that. I wanted to give them a treat of a digital tier so that we could put it out there and hopefully introduce more people to the Fourth Age universe. So again, I want to thank you very much, Enrique, for everything that you've done with the art for that book, and for coming on tonight and letting us talk about your art.
Thank you very much.
It's nice meeting you, Enrique.
Nice meet you. Nice, the same. Nice to meet you.
All right, I'll see everybody probably either on Saturday for my normal video or next Wednesday on John's Longbox. We'll be doing episode number 41 over at John's channel next week. So I'll see y'all later.
See you. Bye-bye.